All right, so we got all the numbers from Nintendo. I had to go through everything. There's a lot of information to take in. I mostly went through and grabbed the important parts, things that are going to be very important to Nintendo going forward and give us an idea as to maybe some of Nintendo's strategy going into the holiday and then into early next year. Now, they reported that the Switch had sold a certain amount last quarter, and then they tell us this quarter, so we also have the difference and everything and how many they've actually sold. Then this is going to cover July, August, and September. So let's jump right over to that page right now and start with the amount of Switch units that they've sold, which does have a lifetime to date amount of 22.86 million, and between that quarter and now that actually accumulates to 3.19 million, which if you take a look at the entire fiscal year, which is the last 6 months, then would be 5.07 million systems. That's actually up, believe it or not, from last fiscal year. Of course, last fiscal year there were some supply constraints, things like that, where that was actually right around 4.89 million. So they actually sold about 180,000 more so far. But of course, going into the holidays is where things really, really take off. But that's actually around what I was thinking it would be, right around 3 million. It's actually a little more, I guess you'd say, 3.19 million. We all assume that the make or break time is actually the quarter we're in right now, October, November, December. So while it seems like that 20 million, yeah, that's right, they're doing 20 million this fiscal year. They haven't changed that prediction either, so they're sticking with it, and I think they have to get through this current fiscal quarter to see if they have to adjust that or lower it. Because keep in mind, the holiday season is massive. How massive? Well, last fiscal year, in this quarter that we're in now, they actually did about 7.5 million Switch units just in those 3 months. And considering this past quarter was actually up from last year, despite a lot of people saying 2018, of course, was a bit slower, which we're going to talk about that because, yeah, it does look like you can kind of look at the numbers and see. Yeah, it still looks like they can really pull off a big sales figure in the holiday season. They could possibly hit 8, 9, maybe even 10. They have to seemingly get 9 to 10 million to really give themselves a chance going into the final quarter, but they could have some games ready to go there, which we're going to touch on as well. The 3DS was also talked about a bit. We're going to go over that a little bit, though, because I also want to talk about the software here for the Switch. This quarter was 24.17 million pieces of so just sold in retail and everything. Usually they don't count like indie games or anything like that. So that means cumulative overall for the past 6 months then, and we're in the midway of the fiscal year, 42.13 million, which means they're going to hit, it's pretty clear they're going to hit their forecast of 100 million. That's actually, I think, underselling it. The software has been very good to them so far on the Switch. The Switch is moving software very, very quickly. It's already eclipsed 100 million, by the way, lifetime, which is very impressive. So yeah, they're underselling that forecast, which is interesting because they're overselling seemingly the hardware forecast, but they're underselling the software. Keep in mind, the software forecast, we're still going to have things like Smash Bros. And Pokemon. While you may not think maybe Pokemon's going to shift as many systems, I think it'll shift quite a few. It's definitely going to sell units. Even if you don't like this Pokemon or not, there's a chance it could actually shift a lot because of the Pokemon Go crowd that could come over. Now, the 3DS, very quickly, we'll talk about that as well. This past quarter, so the past 3 months, 640,000 units sold. Cumulative total of 1 million for this past fiscal year. They're shooting for 4 million, so they're looking to sell about another 3 million or so going forward into, at that point, the end of March. So they still have another half of the fiscal year, which should be a busier time coming up. I guess the one big number a lot of people will be curious about that really matters the most is profit. Yes, Nintendo is making quite a bit of money, and they reported they were making a net operating profit of just over 30 billion yen, so that translates roughly to $268 million USD. So yeah, they're making profit, they're making money, which is good. Obviously, you want all the companies to make money. They are. Now let's talk a bit about their games, because they of course updated all of the games listings that you're seeing here. And I kind of want to talk a bit about what I mean when I say you can kind of tell that this year has not been as good as 2017. A lot of it has to do with 2017 games really carrying the Switch through this fiscal year so far. Mario Odyssey is still at the top, but it probably won't be at the top for very, very long, at least much longer, as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is right behind it. But Mario Odyssey has now eclipsed 12 million units, by the way, 12.17 million, selling another million copies in this past quarter. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like I said, is right behind it. Actually outsold Mario Odyssey this past quarter as it did quarter before that. 1.36 million units, so that's actually closing on 12 million as well, at 11.71 million units. Breath of the Wild crossed 10 million units now. So the Switch already has 3 10 million plus sellers from the first party, which is insanely impressive this early on at the system's lifespan. It really is cool to see this. But to see Breath of the Wild cross that 10 million so fast really speaks how good the game is, because Zelda's, I mean, this is the best-selling Zelda at this point, just single title, and it makes sense because the game is very good. It's almost sold another million, 0.96 million, so about 960,000 units. But this is kind of where it starts to take an interesting turn, because we've just talked about 3 games that have come out in 2017, and those 3 games individually have outsold every game that was coming out in 2018 in this past fiscal quarter. So even if you take something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for example, and you add the total of Mario Tennis Aces, Kirby Star Allies, and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze from this past fiscal quarter, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe outsells all of those if you add them together and combine them. It's insane. Yeah, that's how strong Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is, but it really shows, I guess, the no explosiveness from any of the games this past fiscal year so far in 2018. And we'll kind of keep going down the list here just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. We'll go down to Splatoon 2, which of course is a very strong seller. It's almost 7.5 million units, by the way, now. Sold just about 750,000 units this past fiscal quarter. Keep in mind, guys, 1-2 Switch is the 5th best-selling game on the Switch, which is insane. It actually outsold ARMS. More than doubled ARMS sales, by the way, this past fiscal quarter, which is crazy. That's actually up to 2.64 million units. Mario Tennis Aces actually is the best-selling game this past quarter for really, I guess, the games that you would pick out in 2018 that you say are the big games for the Switch. But selling over 750,000 units, coming in at 2.16 million units. ARMS is now at 2.1 million. Kirby Star Allies is slowing down a bit. Under 250,000 units, so under 250,000 units this past quarter. 2.1 million, though. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which was an interesting thing when that came out, right? When that port came out, but people weren't too excited for it that played on the Wii U, but it sold well at 1.67 million units. Remember, they sold it at $60 and seemed to go over okay there. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is at the bottom of the list. Another 110,000 units at 1.5 million units now. Oh, and you want to know something really funny from this financial report that came out? Something a lot of people picked out. The Wii, the original Wii, apparently it's still selling copies of Mario Kart. Remember that game? Did really well, sold over 37 million units. Well, it's added to that now. As this past fiscal quarter, it sold 40,000 units, which is just insane to think about. I mean, the game already sold a ton of copies, obviously. It's Mario Kart on a very large install base with the Wii. But yeah, people are still buying Mario Kart on the Wii, so I mean, I guess it's backwards compatible with the Wii U, so if you have a Wii U and you go out and pick one up, or you got a Wii, used or something, and you go and get it new, there you go. It technically adds one, but yeah, 40,000 people bought Mario Kart on the Wii this last 3 months. I also took a look at their future releases they have set up, and there's nothing really that jumps out. It all is pretty much just business as usual. I mean, we already know that Yoshi's supposed to be in the spring. We know Fire Emblem's supposed to be in the spring, all 2019. Daemon X Machina is still marked at 2019. I was hoping maybe they were going to put maybe a spring 2019 on that as well. I was hoping that would actually ship in the first quarter, or the fourth quarter, I should say, coming up, which is going to be hopefully sometime before April they can get that one out and have just a nice anchor at the end. I don't think it's going to sell crazy numbers, but it's a nice, cool release that's very unique, that's not a port or anything that they could put out there and possibly get some sales from it, maybe shift some systems towards the end, because the big thing a lot of people are wondering, and I get it, it makes sense, are they going to hit their 20 million mark? Are they going to be able to get to that projection that they've made for themselves? They're the ones who made it at this point, 20 million units more. So they've hit over 22 million. They've passed the Gamecube and everything, right? Gamecube is sitting around 21 million or so. They've done that. But they're talking about another 20 million. They're sitting just over 5 million, which means they need to make up about 15 million units, okay, between the end of September and the end of March. They need 15 million Switches to sell to get there. Usually you don't want to go to your investors and say, we said we were going to be 20 million, we're going to lower it down. They would have said, well, you should have just said that in the first place because you got our hopes up. Our expectations were up there, and now you got to lower them. So can they get there? I look at this, and honestly, it's going to be close. I think they're going to cut it close, but to get there, I think in this holiday season that we're about to enter, which we're getting in November, which means we're getting close to Black Friday when the holiday season really officially kicks off. I bet there are people already shopping right now for holiday deals and everything. But when we get to that point and it's a sprint to Christmas or even the end of December, people forget the week after Christmas is actually very busy as well, but you sprint to the end of December. Can they make it so you have a full 8, 9, even 10 million units? Okay, from October to December. Possibly. Last year they didn't have, they had Mario Odyssey, they didn't have Pokemon and Smash like really back to back. They're very close to each other. They're like 3 or 4 weeks away. Could they do that? I think Smash is going to do very, very well. The wild card here is Pokemon. I feel like it's going to do well in Japan because it's Pokemon, but of course this is one of the few Pokemon games that I remember in a long time that has been under such controversy and such scrutiny from the fan base that it's almost like it's split. And will it move Switch units? Yes, I think it will. They even mentioned that there are no more holiday releases. What we see right now is what they're going with, so they must have a lot of confidence, okay, in Pokemon Let's Go. I think they're really hoping, really banking on the Pokemon Go community possibly moving over, getting a Switch, getting Pokemon Let's Go, kind of, entering the ecosystem here, and then being ready for next year's Pokemon. Because I will say this, if they miss their projection, 2019 looks like it's going to be a very big year. They have a lot of games planned. Animal Crossing, which a lot of people forget, Animal Crossing does numbers, it sells very well. Animal Crossing's there, Luigi's Mansion's there, we think Metroid's going to be there, we think Bayonetta's going to be there, and then there's probably a bunch of other games we don't even know about that they're going to start releasing that probably won't be ports. The only port I can really think of might be like a Mario Maker, or maybe it's a new Mario Maker, which will just take over Twitch. So I think 2019 is going to be the big year for them, and I think they're really going to try to push Pokemon and Smash to try to get 8, 9, even 10 million out of this holiday, and then try to make up another 5 in the first quarter, first quarter of 2019, the fourth quarter of the fiscal year. It's going to be interesting. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. If there are any games that surprise you, are you surprised that the evergreen titles appear to be kind of pulling the Switch along? I'm not. They're big titles, right? Mario Kart is big, right? That makes sense. Mario Odyssey, Zelda. These are like the pillars that the Switch is kind of built on. And I'm going to throw Splatoon 2 in there now because it's sold just about 7.5 million units. That seems like a big title you can kind of rest the Switch on. Definitely in Japan. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. Make sure you give the video a like if you liked it, dislike if not, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for Newswave.